Welcome back to Fantasy Central by Horsemen Sports. This is your host, Zach, aka The Oracle, because I can predict the future, baby. And of course, I'm here with the fantasy guru himself, Hefe.
How you doing, fantasy footballers?
Today, we're going to talk about Week 9 fantasy football. Stick with us. If you're having issues on your team, got some injuries coming up, everybody in the world's getting injured these days. But stick with us today as we go over the top Week 9 waiver claims, players you need to start, and who to absolutely avoid playing this week. But look, we started this podcast as a fun little project months ago. Since then, our notoriety has exploded, but we still need your help and support. As a token of appreciation, we'll be purchasing and giving away an authentic NFL jersey from the NFL shop to one lucky fan, but only once we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So help us out. It takes 10 seconds of your time. Head over to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button and that little bell icon real quick. Get all your friends to help us out and be on the lookout for when we drop this jersey giveaway. So, all right, let's hop to it. Week 9 waiver wire. I know you got a pretty big list on the wire again this week, so let's start with the running backs. Who are you looking at taking on the waiver wire?
Yes, like you said, it's a pretty big list. A lot of injuries this year, and we have Cleveland, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and the Los Angeles Rams are all in the bye this week. So this week, I want to start with Philip Lindsay. Melvin Gordon's not hurt or anything, and he gets a bulk of the snaps, a bulk of the touches. Well, Philip Lindsay's averaging 6.5 a carry, and he's only had 2 catches all year, right? The first game and the last game. So there's not a whole lot of passing production, but it just feels like he's been there for a little while, and he produces better than Melvin Gordon when he's on the field. So he's somebody to look out for, somebody that should be picked up and stashed on somebody's roster in the league because the way he's playing, I could see him taking back at least more of a 50-50 share than what it is right now. Then we move on here to J.K. Dobbins. Melvin Ingram, it's unclear if he's going to play. It's pointing more to him sitting out. And the Ravens are playing the Colts, who are one of the best, if not the best, run defense in the league. But they run a lot. As a team, they just ran the ball 47 times. So without Melvin Ingram there, that's going to be more touches for JK, right? And that they're a run first team. You would expect them to probably get over 100 yards rushing against anybody they're playing. So JK, I like him. He's probably rostered in a good bit of leagues, but if he was dropped because he wasn't producing now, it's the perfect time to pick him up. This is the time he really has a chance to take a grasp of that lead role. And then also, last week we talked about Zach Moss possibly taking more of a lead role, and it was an exact 50-50 split outside of the one catch that Devin Singletary got this week. It was 14 carries for each back. The production was almost identical in this game, but Zach Moss got 2 carries, and if he's going to keep getting the goal line work and a 50-50 split on touches, then I like Zach Moss. He's somebody that should be picked up, possibly a week-to-week flex play. And then Jordan Wilkins. Jordan Wilkins is more of maybe a homer pick. You don't really know what the Colts are going to do. Frank Reich said that with the 15 to 20 plays that he scripts, he likes to get equal amounts of touches to all three running backs to see who can get it going, who we're going to use. And Jordan Wilkins got it going early against the Lions. So that's why we saw in the second half, it was mostly just Jordan Wilkins. So, especially with a mysterious injury popping up, I think it was a ankle injury for Jonathan Taylor, maybe a hamstring, something going on there that just kind of popped up after the game. Nobody heard about it during the game. So keep an eye on that. But Jordan Wilkins is an interesting flex option. And then, whoever the Seahawks running back is going to be who you're playing. And they're talking about Chris Carson coming back. And if he isn't, or if you just want to go ahead and stash the next man up, I believe Carlos Hyde's going to be out for sure this week. And then that would be DJ Dallas, who looked pretty good. So if Chris Carson is limited in any fashion, and DJ Dallas would be an interesting flex option. And the last running back, or the last two that I have here, are kind of, you got to see what the real starters are doing in the lineup. But Tyler Irvin, Packers running back, I believe Aaron Jones is going to be ready for Thursday. But if he's not, he's going to be the next man up. AJ Dillon going through the COVID-19 protocol, and Jamal Williams is being held out for the same thing. So Tyler Irvin would be the next man up after Aaron Jones. So he might be one you pick up and see what happens. And JaMychal Hasty, he kind of led the backfield there. With Tevin Coleman going to be out, you're going to want to see what they do with Jared McKinnon and what they do with Hasty. After last week, it looked like Hasty could have more of a workload. So if he wasn't picked up in your league, go pick him up, and you're probably playing him this week.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid list. It's crazy how many people are getting injured this season. It's just the 2020 theme. Just nothing can ever go right. But I'm not sure how I feel about J.K. Dobbins because that Indy defense is so stout and the way Lamar Jackson playing. You might be right here. They, like you said, they like to run the ball a lot. Lamar Jackson hasn't been playing well, so he may get some numbers. But I do like the Jordan Wilkins selection. He had a great game last week. It's just tough with Jonathan Taylor. You never know how he's going to perform. And then you also have Naheem Hines taking it from the outside, getting all the passing down. So, but if you need a running back, these are the guys to go after. I'm in that situation. I was just having this conversation 20 minutes ago that in both of my leagues, I am decimated with running backs. So I'm scrambling, and I'm sure there's thousands of other people out there scrambling in the same situation. So these are the guys you want to look for on the wire this week. As far as wide receivers, you have any you want to look at picking up?
Yeah, so McCole Hardman's going to be an interesting one, right? And he kind of always is. That any receiver in that Chiefs offense, you hope you can pick them up and they get production. But McCole Hardman, since Sammy Watkins went out, has really looked more like a number two. And obviously they just played the Jets, and they just went crazy on them because they're the Jets, right? So you're going to want to monitor it, but right now seems like somebody that you might want to pick up if they're going to keep using them. And then we move on to Detroit. Kenny Galladay is for sure going to be out week 9, maybe longer, and some guy named Marvin Hall had 100 yards against Colts defense. So he's somebody that probably pick him up. You're probably going to at least flex him for a week or two. Hopefully it works out. I might be somebody that's in that market. And also Kendrick Bourne. Kittle goes down. Debo Samuel, we're going to have to see if he's coming back. Not real sure about that yet. But you would expect, if Debo's not there, that Kendrick Bourne and Brandon Ayuk are going to get a lot of targets in this game. So Kendrick Bourne probably a week-to-week flex option at this point. And the last receiver I have here is Darnell Mooney for the Bears, somebody that I mentioned a few weeks ago after they played the Colts, and I had a chance to really watch the Bears play and see what they were doing. And Nick Foles, I don't know if it's going to be Nick Foles for too much longer. They might give that back to Trubisky. But Darnell Mooney seems to be one of the favorite targets of Nick Foles. And obviously Allen Robinson is going to get targets there. But those seem to be the only two playmakers on the team. So he's somebody that should be picked up and somebody that I would be very comfortable putting in my flex every week to get anywhere between, 12 and 18 points, depending if he gets a touchdown.
Yeah, I like that list too. McCole Hardman, especially because his ceiling is so high and as talented as Pat Mahomes is, he can make anybody look spectacular. But they do have a lot of weapons on that offense, so it's hard to maybe justify that. But if you need a guy, that ceiling is high, and who knows, he may have a huge game for you. And then I also have to admit, last week when we had the Kenny Galladay conversation, you told me to sit him because he was going against that Colts defense. But I didn't listen, of course, because I'm hard-headed. And Kenny Galladay, obviously, he got injured, but I got 0 points out of him. So I will gladly say I should have listened to you there, Hefe. But same thing this week. He's probably not going to play. Marvin Hall had some catches against this Colts defense. And if you can do it against the Colts, you can do it against anybody. So he may be a guy to definitely look after. Kendrick Bourne, he was the top receiver last week on the wire. If he's still there, pick him up because they're scrambling to replace injuries all over the field for the Niners. And yeah, you definitely talked about Mooney weeks ago. I remember that. And then Wins is out now too, so that just elevates Mooney just a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't even thought about the other guy being out. Yeah, so I mean, they're him and Allen Robinson are probably about to eat like 10 to 12 targets a game.
Yeah, that's all they have left. So all right, let's move on to your must start players. Obviously, we say this every week. We're not talking about your top level elite superstars. We're talking about the next group of guys that are hit and miss here and there. But these guys, with the matchups of this week, who are you starting at running back?
So this week I'm going to start off with James Robinson, who might be like, oh, yeah, well, yeah, of course you're playing him. But, the Jags were on a bye last week. They're playing Houston this week. And they're starting another rookie, right? Last year it was Gardner, and Gardner has some mysterious thumb issue come up on their bye week. We just heard about it like 2 days ago. I think it came up on Sunday or Monday that he had a thumb issue. So they got this 6th-round pick that's starting for the Jags. So James Robinson should have a huge day. Probably expect a lot of checkdowns, a lot of runs. He should have a lot of touches, and the Houston defense is garbage. So he's going to be, probably a top 5 play this week. So go ahead and play him. And then you move on to Chase Edmonds. Kenyon Drake looks like he's going to be out this week. Now, Miami, not the greatest matchup, right? Their defense is playing really well right now. But Chase Edmonds is pretty much all they got in the backfield, and they do a lot of the dink and dunk and things within 5 yards. So I would expect Chase Edmonds to have anywhere between 25 and 35 touches in this game. Might not amount to a whole lot, but that kind of touches should net you at least 15 points. And then in the same game, I like the other running back, Miles Gaskin. Arizona's defense. The only player you really got to worry about there from a run support and pretty much all over the field kind of guy is Buda Baker. Really the only guy that gives me any panic in that defense from that standpoint. So I think they'll be able to get it going. They got to offensively, they have to do something to help Tua out. So I think they're going to want to get the run game going, and they do it here. And then David Johnson going against the Jaguars. So, again, staying in one of the games we talked about. But I think this is one of the weeks that, he's got to be a for sure running back too, right? Not every week we're talking about starting David Johnson, but I think this is the week. The Jags defense is super weak, and the Texans got to figure out something well, I guess maybe not. Maybe they're trying to lose and get draft picks. Who knows? But I think this is the week to start David Johnson and the 49ers starter. I don't know who that is yet. We're going to have to wait and see. But whoever the 49ers are starting, you're starting that guy for sure.
Yeah, so I like that list a lot. James Robinson, he's been pretty spectacular. Chase Edmonds, Miles Gaskins, I was fortunate enough to pick both of them up on the wire earlier in the season to replace Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley, who went to the IR. But I've been starting them almost, yeah, every single week that they've been playing, I've started them, and they have produced, especially Miles Gaskins. I think there's only been 1 week all season he has had less than 10 points. And Chase Edmonds, I think I've had him the last 4 weeks, put up 15, 20, 20, and I think he had one down game where he only had like 4 or 5 points. But I definitely like both of those players. I agree with you. I would pretty much start them almost every single week at this point if you're lucky enough to have them, unless you have a superstar on your team, obviously. David Johnson, I don't know how I feel about David Johnson. I've been calling it all season long. He's a bust. Horrible trade by Bill O'Brien. I don't know if I'd have the confidence in him, but it is a very interesting matchup there. And the 49ers starter, I agree with you there. If you need a running back, they like to use their running backs, and they're all capable of producing points. So, all right, let's move on to wide receivers. Who you got starting for your wide receivers?
So I want to start with Preston Williams. And the reason here is because we saw the last game that I watched the Cardinals play was against the Seahawks. and Patrick Peterson did a pretty damn good job of shutting down DK Metcalf, and I think he only had 2 catches that game. DK did, and but in that same game, Tyler Lockett went off. What was it? 15 catches, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns, something crazy like that. And that was against Drake Kirkpatrick. And who draws Drake Kirkpatrick this week? It's Preston Williams. So Preston Williams is somebody that if he's not picked up in your league, go ahead and pick him up, start him. He's somebody that should be started in every league. He should pick on Drake Kirkpatrick a lot in this game. He's been giving up a lot of catches, a lot of yards. So week to week, pay attention to who the Cardinals are playing, because I'm probably going to have the number 2 receiver for that team on the list for starters. And then we move on to the 49ers. And we kind of already talked about Kendrick Bourne here and Brandon Ayuk. With Kittle down, they're going to have to throw to the receivers. They're obviously going to incorporate the running backs and tight ends. But I think Brandon Ayuk and Kendrick Bourne going against this Packers defense are good plays. Maybe I don't know who Jair Alexander's gonna be shadowing here. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's just one side of the field. But I like, again, Kendrick Bourne, Brandon Ayuk, start them both this week. Also Marvin Jones. We already talked about Marvin Hall for the Lions, but they're playing the Vikings here. And I think that you can throw against the Vikings. We saw Devontae Adams is really the only thing the Packers have in terms of receivers, and he had 3 touchdowns. So, I like, again, Marvin Hall and Marvin Jones going against the Vikings. And this is more of a speculative ad because you really don't know. Chris Godwin's coming back this week. Not real sure about that, and I'll talk about him in a minute. But I like Antonio Brown this week. I think he's somebody that should be played. For some reason they're not using Mike Evans the way we're used to seeing Mike Evans be used, and he's not getting the downfield work. He's been doing a lot more slot work. So I think that it might be wise to start Antonio Brown if you were lucky enough to pick him up. I think he's going to get a lot of work. He's had a little bit of experience with Tom. He's an extremely hard worker. I expect him to come back and be in shape, be ready to go. So I like Antonio Brown this week. And then this week, the last 2 I have here, 2 guys coming back from injury. Jamison Crowder, as long as he's healthy, you put him in your lineup for sure, at least a wide receiver 2. And Tim Patrick, somebody that I've mentioned before, not somebody that'll net you a whole lot of yards, but he could. There's a lot of potential there. So with him coming back, and him and Drew Lock seemed to be in sync before he got injured. So with Tim Patrick coming back in the lineup for the Broncos, he's somebody that I would think about putting in my flex spot.
Yeah, it's a pretty good list. I especially like the Marvin Jones pick here. I know we talked about Marvin Hall earlier in the show, like you said, but Marvin Jones, very capable. He's still – how many touchdowns did he have against Colts? 1 or 2?
I think he did have 2, didn't he?
I want to say he had 2. So, yeah, he definitely put up numbers against this Colts defense. So, like I said earlier, you can put up numbers against the Colts defense. You can put up the numbers against anybody. Definitely start him if you have him on your team. And I do like the Antonio Brown pick. Personally, I don't like Antonio Brown, but he is a very capable receiver on a high-octane offense led by Tom Brady, who is going to make it a point to get him involved and get him involved early. So I like the target numbers here. I like his capability. Start Antonio Brown. You won't be disappointed. All right, let's move on to sitters, people you absolutely have to avoid this week, and you got a pretty interesting list here. So let's start with your running back choice. Who are you sitting on that running back spot?
Yeah, so there's only one running back here this week. There's so many running back injuries, and then with the bye weeks, Kareem Hunt's out, Joe Mixon and Bernard are out. So who are you going with, and who you got to sit? Zeke is really the only running back that I saw on the list that I think you got to sit. Again, with so many injuries, so many buys, you pretty much got to play who you have. But if you have somebody that you think can net you like 12 points this week, then I would take Zeke out of the lineup. He's playing the Steelers. That Steelers defense is crazy. And even with Zach Martin back in the lineup for the Cowboys, it's just not enough offensive line help to make me comfortable with what they're going to be able to do, even against a bad team. If they're putting up field goals against bad teams, then they might actually not score in this game, which means Zeke probably not going to have a whole lot of production here. So I want to sit Zeke here, and then moving on to the receivers here, going against the Bears this week. The Titans, they're coming off two tough losses, right? They just lost to the Bengals. Their defense is struggling, and I think the Bears are going to be able to lock down AJ Brown here. Okay, I'll leave the rest of most of that conversation for our preview show coming out on Thursday. But I think that the Bears defense is tough. I think they're going to be able to cause pressure and make it tough to get the ball to AJ Brown. I think these corners are really, really good. The safeties play well over the top. So AJ Brown, not somebody I'm comfortable playing this week. Obviously, most people aren't going to listen to me there. AJ Brown's a beast. You probably want to play him because he might overcome, but I don't feel comfortable with that this week. And then Chris Godwin here against the Saints, a receiver with anything on his hand, maybe he doesn't play with anything over his hand, but I would assume after having surgery that there's going to be something on his finger, and that's little bit is going to mess up the rhythm while he's in the game. Maybe it drops a pass or two, and then Tom doesn't want to go to him, or whatever the case. But I'm just not real comfortable playing him. And, Antonio Brown's coming in, and Mike Evans is already there, and Gronk seems to be a factor. So maybe stay away from Chris Godwin this week, see what happens with Antonio Brown in the lineup. And then Devontae Parker, like I mentioned earlier, whoever the Cardinals play, they usually pick on Dre Kirkpatrick, and we're talking about Patrick Peterson here, right? He's not playing at the level he was, 3 years ago, but he's not playing terrible, and he was able to lock down DK Metcalf, who obviously just went off for 12 catches this past week. So I would stay away from Devontae Parker here. And again, with the Dolphins, they might run a lot in this game. So Preston Williams as a starter was more of a, I hope he does well because I had high hopes for him in the preseason, and this seems like his game. Devontae Parker here, probably not a week you want to play him. And then to finish everything else off, we talked about not playing Zeke. Just stay away from all the Cowboys this week. There's absolutely no reason you're playing any Cowboys against the Steelers this week. So, not even Amari Cooper. Sit all of them.
Yeah, so I like that list, especially the AJ Brown one. Avoid him. Probably even Corey Davis at that. Chris Godwin been injured. Too many weapons on this. Like I said, they're probably going to get Antonio Brown involved early, keep his target numbers up. Devontae Parker, as a matter of fact, a couple hours ago when I was going through my roster, I already put him on the bench, so I agree with you there. And of course, avoid all Cowboys. I also agree. I'm in the process of making some moves, and I do believe I will sit Amari Cooper this week. So I'll go over it all again before the final roster's ready, but we'll see. So all right, be on the lookout tomorrow for Hefe's Week 9 Power Rankings. You can find it on our Facebook and Twitter pages at Horsemen Sports. Be sure to check that out. Let us know in the comments what you think about your favorite team's ranking. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and have a chance at an authentic NFL jersey from the NFL shop on us. If you're watching this, hit that subscribe button and click that little bell icon so you never miss an episode or miss your chance at that jersey giveaway. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, head on over to our YouTube channel. Help us out. We really appreciate the support. And it's not too late to go head to head against us in a weekly pick'em battle. Hop on our Facebook, Twitter page at Horsemen Sports, where you can find the link to join for free. Maybe win a prize, maybe get on the air with us, represent your team. We love the interaction. We love the competition. You're probably not going to beat us because we're just that good, but you might get lucky one of these weeks. Hefe, you got any parting words you want to throw out there?
Yes, I just want to go over some tight ends real quick. We know the injury to George Kittle happened, right? And tight end is such a slim position right now. And, we have Philly on a bye week, which is pretty crucial for tight ends. And so to take over for George Kittle. Kyle Shanahan already said that Jordan Reed should be ready to go and back in the lineup for the Thursday night game against the Packers. So I'm not real sure which way to go here. I feel like they should use Ross Dwelly more, but earlier in the season, before Jordan Reed got hurt, he had a big game filling in for George Kittle when he had 5 catches and 2 touchdowns. So, I don't know who they're going to go with. If you can somehow spare the room, pick up both of them maybe. You never really know what they're going to do with their tight ends. Somebody's got to get targets. They got to figure something out if they want to keep pace in the NFC playoff picture. So Jordan Reed, Ross Dwelly, two guys that should be looked at and picked up. And another one here is Eric Ebron. His floor seems to be he gets somewhere between 5 to 8 targets a game, and he gets at least 40 yards a game. So his fantasy floor is 9 points. So if you just need somebody to fill in at minimum, again, especially this week against the Cowboys, maybe he snags a touchdown, maybe he snags two, maybe they have like 85 points in this game. You never really know. It's the Cowboys. So Eric Ebron, somebody that should be picked up, if you need him from, if your tight end gets hurt or if he goes on by, he's at least 9 points a week. And then we have TJ Hawkinson, who is finally starting to look like the guy that we all expected him to be, right? And he was able, like you said, he was able to produce against the Colts. And if you could produce against the Colts, then I'm going to think that you can do it against anybody else. And he did it in a couple games leading into the Colts game. So he's a guy that probably week to week is a guy that if you're lucky enough to be able to pick him up right now in your league, then he's somebody that should be picked up and probably somebody that should be played. Probably get you anywhere between 12 and 15 a week. And homie, I think Gronk is back. I
I
think
think
he's
he is
back.
too.
He looks like Gronk again. He's not shying away from the contact. He's making diving catches. I mean, I think Gronk's back, and he's somebody that you're going to want to play every week. And another
Yeah.
guy that might be back is Will Dissly. He's been getting a little bit of action for the Seahawks, and we know they're pass happy this year. So keep an eye on Will Dissly as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's a very fair point on all of those. I definitely have to agree with you on that. So, all right, just want to remind everybody today is election day in the United States. I don't care who you're voting for, but please go out and vote. Exercise your rights provided to you in the United States Constitution. It's the most American thing you can ever do. I do have one more thing for you, Hefe. What do you think about that Michigan loss to Michigan State last weekend?
Dude, eh, I'm at the point like I can understand the Ohio State losses. Okay, that's understandable. Notre Dame, I hate when we do like I might hate Notre Dame more than I hate Ohio State. I hate when we lose to Notre Dame, but I understand it. They're a good program, bro. We cannot lose to Michigan State. Like at this point, if they're going to keep Jim Harbaugh, then they're going to lose me. Like I'm starting to think, which team should
Oh,
I start rooting for now?
wow. Well, they have a tough matchup against Indiana of all teams this week, and IU's ranked, I think, 13th in the country, which is crazy because they've been horrible for as long as I can remember.
Their program has been a joke for him like my entire life.
Wouldn't that be something if IU can upset? Well, I guess it's not even an upset anymore. It'd be an upset if Michigan beats IU.
Yeah, yeah, that just
That's
doesn't
crazy.
sound right.
I know, right? Just out of curiosity, who's your favorite Michigan player of all time? Is it Tom Brady?
Dude, oh my god, don't ever insinuate that again. Okay, it's C Wood every day of the week. That's not even a question. Oh my god,
Who?
C Wood, Charles Woodson. Oh my god,
Uh,
Heisman. Uh,
what about Desmond Howard?
Yeah, no, like Desmond Howard was slightly before my time. Seawood was, my childhood in the NFL. I was a huge fan of him with the Packers and the Raiders. So
Yeah,
I like,
true that. True that. All right. There you have it. Week 9 fantasy is in the books. Good luck this week. We'll see how you do, and enjoy the games. We will see you again Thursday with Brad for our Week 9 picks and preview show. Until then, thanks for listening.